Hello and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at.
Yeah, well, first of all, the mission is still very much alive.
Mayor Johnson reacts to the state pulling funding for a migrant camp in Brighton Park. A local organization is building modular homes in Roseland to promote home ownership.
The sound hits them the moment they walk through the doors.
And we visit the Galloping Ghost arcade, where old school video game arcade culture is getting an extra life. And now to some of today's top stories. State officials are pulling funding from a planned but controversial migrant shelter in Brighton Park. The governor's office says the site is not suitable because of environmental concerns. The announcement comes nearly a week after construction had started at the site, despite community protests. It also comes days after Mayor Brandon Johnson said the site was safe to use as long as contaminated soil was removed and a stone barrier covered the property. And our Spotlight Politics team will have more on that story coming up in just a bit. New numbers from the Chicago Police Department show a decline in homicides and shootings compared to the end of November last year. CPD says homicides have dropped by 11% and shootings by 13%. On the CTA, violent crime is down 3% through the end of November, and overall transit crime is down 6%, while carjackings are down 22% year to date. Your nearest hospital or walk-in clinic might be changing its name. North Shore University Health System is now Inav Health, now that it's merged with Swedish Hospital, Northwest Community Healthcare, and Edward Elmhurst Health. That move created the third largest health system in the state, serving 1.3 million patients. Inav Health now includes these acute care hospitals, which will all retain their current names. The health system says patients can expect to see new branding phasing in over the coming months. Up next, our Spotlight Politics team on the battle between the city and state over the migrant camp in Brighton Park. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Governor J.B. Pritzker pulls the plug on state funding for the Brighton Park migrant camp, the latest from the corruption trial of former Alderman Ed Burke, and new restrictions on public access to city council meetings. Here with all that and more is our Spotlight Politics team, Amanda Vinicky, Heather Sharon, and Paris Schutz. Hey, gang. So the big news of the day, of course, is that the state is pulling funding for the migrant base camp in Brighton Park. Here's how Mayor Brandon Johnson reacted when asked about his Plan B.
I've been planning for Plan B, C, and D, and F, E, and F from the very moment that I became the mayor of the city of Chicago. And so whether it's 115th in Austin or 38th in California or any other brick and mortar location that we've identified that can serve the purpose of this mission, know that my administration is planning ahead.
All right, so Heather, what are the environmental concerns that have led the state to pull the plug on this?
Well, the site was used for industrial purposes for decades. So Mayor Brandon Johnson said today it shouldn't have been a surprise that there were toxic and heavy metals found on the site. I think he was caught off guard with the state saying that the tests that the city sort of arranged for were not sufficient to sort of fully figure out how polluted that site is and to make sure that the remediations and the measures put in place would be enough to protect the nearly 2,000 people that could have lived there on this shelter. This decision, I think, not only caught the city off guard, it caught sort of the people who had been protesting the site off guard, and it sort of raised significant questions about how well the city and the state are working to address this, by all accounts, serious humanitarian crisis, which has been in full flame for more than 6 months at this point.
Amanda, why is this only happening now after the camp is, from what we can see, fairly well constructed? Why wasn't a decision on the environmental sustainability of the site made earlier?
I mean, good question, Brandis, and I think it's one that pretty much everybody is asking because it just on its face seems to lack any common sense. How, what, why, huh?
Right.
But I think part of it is, bear in mind that environmental testing does take a long time, and why the state says that it decided to cancel any going forward further on this is because it would take even more time to do proper remediation and proper testing, the kind of testing that they said should have been done in the first place. The state is really pointing the finger at the city for not having shared the environmental report in the first place. This was hard for folks to get a hold of, came out late on a Friday night, and oh wait, the state didn't get it until after it had been released to reporters who had put FOIAs in place to try and get access to it.
Late on a Friday night.
Late on a Friday night. So the state is saying,
Classic.
had there been communication about this prior, then perhaps this could have been solved. So while certainly the city and state have been in talks, they are seemingly talking past one another, not getting the right answers. Exactly.
Go ahead, Pierce.
Clearly, it seems they're not coordinating, Brandis, because we're hearing all of this through press release, and they're not sort of working behind the scenes together to resolve these things. If you step back a few weeks, if folks that asked the state for help, there was no help, there was no money. Now all of a sudden there's money. There's $65 million for this base camp. But you think the state's going to have to pick up the tab for the construction so far, although the state is denying that. You just wonder if Governor Pritzker trusts Mayor Johnson. The DNC is coming here in 8 months. This is the big show. Pritzker, who has presidential aspirations, needs things to go really well. He can't have a city where migrants are sleeping in police stations, where things are not, going well. So you just wonder about that about face and whether this factors into why Pritzker now is taken over.
Yeah, because you can't have migrants sleeping on streets when the DNC is here. But I think also Pritzker doesn't want to wear the jacket for down the road saying, oh, wait, migrants at a place that had mercury in the soil. So it's also who wants to wear the jacket politically for that.
Right, and that's why Mayor Johnson seems to hear about these things when we hear about these things, But again, the Illinois Environmental, the IEPA, did this analysis and said
in a weekend,
the city's analysis,
checking it
the
out
city's
real
analysis
quick.
was not sufficient.
Insufficient.
It was totally insufficient.
The testing insufficient. They're not putting into question the findings, by the way. They're just saying what
We
it
need
came
more
up with.
testing. We need more answers. So let's get to the Burke trial really quick. Heather, more evidence in the corruption trial of former Alderman Ed Burke. What was today's focus?
Well, we are back focused on the alleged scheme to extort owners of Burger King in Alderman Burke's 14th ward. They said today that Ed Burke clearly linked what they said was the permit that they needed to do the work with his request that they hire his law firm. And a lot of the testimony we've heard has answered sort of the fundamental question I had all the way back in 2019. Why was Ed Burke so determined to get this business, right? It's just one Burger King. How much money could he have earned appealing the property taxes for one single eatery? Well, it turns out that this one Burger King is owned by a firm that owns hundreds of Burger Kings in Illinois. And we saw an email from Ed Burke's assistant to the Burger King owner saying, we want all of that business. So that adds up. And that, prosecutors say, is why Ed Burke held up permits that they needed to do the work and then shut them down when he realized that the construction had started, but he had not been hired.
So if he's landing the tuna with the old post office renovation, he's trying to land the ground beef here with this franchisee.
The whole cow.
But the defense attorneys did cross-examine these officials from this restaurant. They said, well, so did you ever contact the FBI? And they said, well, no. So it suggests that they thought it was weird. They thought it was different that Alderman Burke was making these sort of requests. But perhaps
they clearly moved on.
Perhaps they didn't think it was criminal. We don't know. But again, you want to do business. You want to get your business. You're not going to mess with that.
Or they decided it was not worth it to them to sort of protest, and that the easiest path was to just make it go away and get on with their lives.
Which is, by the way, what they did, because they didn't actually land the tuna or the beef. Firm never hired.
Yes.
There was testimony that the firm was just seemingly too incompetent.
Quickly, Heather, new restrictions on where the public can sit during city council meetings. What are the restrictions and what's prompted them? Because it sounds like there's some questions.
Well, there have been several meetings that have gotten way out of control with members of the public harassing members of the city council and other members of the public. So the Johnson administration has said that if you are just a regular old Chicagoan, you will have to watch the city council meeting from the third floor gallery. And the Better Government Association, which is a longtime good government access group says that is completely illegal. Please don't enforce those rules at the next city council meeting, which is not this week or next week, but the week after, the 13th. And if you do, we will sue you because it's a violation of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. And I never really got an answer from the mayor about how these sort of new restrictions on public access to the city council sort of dovetails with his pledges during the campaign to be transparent and to encourage public participation in the civic life. I think that the mayor is again trying to find a balance between protecting people who are doing sort of taxpayers' work while providing public access.
If they go through with this, they're going to get sued. Do they want to spend money, city public money, keeping the public out of open meetings?
Again, talk about jackets you want to wear. Is that something you want to have to defend as well? So that's where we've got to leave for Spotlight. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about next week. Heather, Amanda Paris, thanks, gang. Coming up, a local organization building modular homes to promote homeownership on the South Side. A look at the impact up next. Community members on the far South Side hope they're laying the foundation for a new approach to home ownership. Using modular home construction, large segments of a house are built elsewhere, then assembled at the site in just a day. The Hope Center Foundation says getting house keys to new homeowners is crucial to revitalizing this community. Joining us to talk more about the initiative and its impacts are Shanita Muse, Executive Director of the Hope Center Foundation of Chicago, Jeff Smith from the Institute for Housing Studies at DePaul University, and Linda Brown Wilson, a resident of Roseland and qualified home buyer of a modular home. Thanks to the three of you for joining us. Shanita Muse, of course, starting with you first, please. How did this Reclaiming Communities initiative begin, and what are some of the goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Hope Center Foundation is a member of United Power for Action and Justice, which is a nonpartisan organization whose initiative, Reclaiming Communities, is centered around building 1,000 homes on the South Side, 1,000 homes on the West Side. And that initiative is around reclaiming, repopulating, and revitalizing the city of Chicago. And this work is done through our anchor institutions in those communities. There is Lawndale Community Development Corporation in North Lawndale, Southwest Organizing Project in the Chicago Lawn. There is the Resurrection Project in the back of the yards, and there are Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives and the Hope Center Foundation, who is doing this work in Roseland.
Okay, and I know the first modular home, it went up last week. You've got a few more coming over the coming weeks. 20 to 25 homes starting next year. You said the goal of 1,000. Why 1,000?
It's really about, there are 10,000 vacant lots in the city of Chicago. And as I indicated, it is really about reclaiming our communities, revitalizing the city of Chicago, repopulating. There are a number of residents that have been lost. Over 60,000 residents have moved out of the far South Side. And so if we are to reclaim our communities and our neighborhoods, then we need to build homes.
Starting with 1,000 to begin on the South Side and 1,000 on the West Side. Jeff Smith, modular home model, it's a different approach than the one that we typically think of when we think about building homes and home ownership. Does this approach look like the kind of thing that could open more doors for home ownership, particularly for folks who are low to moderate income?
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the key challenges that many historically disinvested communities face is a limited supply of move-in ready housing that's also affordable for modest income residents. History of disinvestment means that the housing stock has had a lot of deferred maintenance, and in some cases been demolished. And one of the key barriers to creating new homeowners in many neighborhoods is not just the ability to get a mortgage, but the ability to find a home and make sure that that home is affordable. So modular housing, takes advantage of this sort of, this abundance of vacant lots, and also creates a home that may be more affordable than other types of new construction.
Linda Brown Wilson, you're going to be purchasing one of these homes soon, so congrats to you on that. You've lost your previous home in a fire, unfortunately. Tell us a little bit about your experience and why this is the right program for you to purchase your next home.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm so excited. I'm one of the first candidates to receive one of the homes. We had a house fire, lost everything. My husband is disabled. Also just recently lost my son. If it was not for this program, I would not be able to afford a new home. And I'm so excited and grateful to the Hope Foundation, to Miss Shanice Muse and Reverend Meeks. I'm so excited to be going back in Roseland. That's my home, and there's a lot of nice people in Roseland, and I'm glad I'm gonna be one to help rebuild my community. And that, as Reverend Meeks said, like once family moves in, grocery stores, business and stuff come. So I'm excited about it. And it's also that, go ahead.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say we're, of course, sorry to hear about some of the challenges that you've experienced in the loss of your son. Jeff, what are some of the hurdles that residents experience when they are trying to buy a home in a community that has been typically disinvested in?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big challenges is available move-in ready housing. The history of disinvestment just means that housing stock might be deteriorated and needs substantial investment to be move-in ready, or there is an abundance of vacant land. So the availability of housing is a challenge. Affordability of housing is a challenge, especially in the current market where mortgage interest rates are really, really high and house prices are continuing to be pretty strong and going up. So I think both of those challenges affect all communities, but really historically disinvested communities have a substantial challenge, especially for modest income home buyers.
Shanita, how has Hope Center been connecting with the community to find potential home buyers like Linda Brown Wilson, and what's some of the other sort of wraparound services that you all provide to make sure that people are ready to buy a home?
On the ground, door to door, face to face, engaging with our community residents, understanding what their needs are, and just building relationships with them. Actually, this Saturday, December 9th, we will have our first annual housing fair from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the House of Hope. And this really gives our residents an opportunity to understand the home buying process so that they are able, whether it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now, to participate in the home buying process, leading to generational wealth for their families.
What are some of those challenges that they might experience when they come to you with questions?
I think just the opportunity to qualify for a mortgage is a challenge. Financial literacy is a big component of the work that we do. Success for us is not selling homes, but the ability to keep people in homes. And so just home buyer education and services to the community residents. So we are on the ground offering those wraparound services to them, whether it's workforce development, youth mentorship for our youth. Food insecurity is also a problem in Roseland that we work with our community residents on making sure that they have fresh, healthy food to eat. And so we are here for the long haul in the Roseland community to support our residents and whatever their needs are at this time and in the future.
Linda, we've got about 20 seconds left. I want to give you the last word. What are the next steps for you? When do you get to sign papers and move in?
Well, I'm already under contract, so I'm excited. And as I was saying before we end, I'm excited that I'll be leaving my granddaughter. The house is like generational wealth for us. It's sad that my son won't be here to witness it. And so it's also an opportunity for me to step up and leave something to her because he's no longer here. So I'm very excited and overwhelmed in emotion.
Well,
a lot of emotions
again.
running.
Congrats
Thank
again,
you.
I'm sure. And I see that
Yes.
it looks like you're wearing a picture of your son close to your heart there.
Oh,
Thank you so
yes.
much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Linda Brown-Wilson,
you.
Shanita Muse, and Jeff Smith. And a final note, stories about Chicago home ownership are supported by funding from the Chicago Community Trust. Up next, it's not game over for old school video games at this local arcade. We'll tell you about it, but first, a look at the weather. From the beckoning screens to the bleeping chiptunes, the sounds and sights of a video game arcade are unlike anything else. And while these days gamers can get their Super Mario fix from home, those who crave that in-person experience need look no further than Brookfield's Galloping Ghost Arcade, where arcade culture is getting a power-up.
The sound hits them the moment they walk through the doors.
Round one, fight!
It's one of those things that resonates with them instantaneously. It takes them back to going to arcades back in the day. Memories coming back audibly.
I've been a gamer like since my youth, like since the Atari days. I guess you could call it therapy. You know, some people want to go out, some people prefer drinking. I've been doing this at a very young age. And right now I'm in my mid-40s. And I am still doing this.
It's a very community-heavy arcade.
Ghost Squad.
You get old school arcade, hardcore players, competitive players that wants to put on special costumes and chat. And overall, it's just, you know, what kind of scores we put on, what's our favorite game, and overall, just having a very overall great time.
Ghost Squad.
What's great about this place is that everything outside of the arcade gaming realm is kind of left outside.
Round one, fight!
Whatever kind of differences people might have, it's kind of just squashed, and guys just come here to talk shop about video games. Like we had a couple gentlemen up front just kind of strategizing on how to get a higher score in Ultra Beast. Power up. It's pretty cool like that.
The gaming here is my life. The arcade's my life. A lot of people my age, they like competition. They want to know who's the best. And we have plenty of that here at the Galloping Ghost, so that's what makes it fun. I think that's what motivates people to come here in the first place.
Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
I like to dress fancy, look cool, and basically bring the community together by, you know, looking really nice and sharp. It is literally a living museum, and you know, it's not like a museum where you can't touch the exhibit. It's literally a museum where you can just play anything your heart desires. Like literally every machine here is playable.
Michael! I've been personally playing arcade games since I was 4 or 5 years old. First arcade game I ever played was Asteroids.
Time to play the game! Final round.
It was such a tremendous amount of fun for me growing up going to arcades. It's like people aren't going to be able to enjoy that if there aren't any arcades anymore. I didn't want this stuff to go away.
It's all about the game and how you play it.
Our first company was Galloping Ghost Productions, which opened up back in 1994, making video games. And as we watched the arcade scene, it was always on the radar to open an arcade. But it wasn't until 2010 when everything just happened to line up. Brookfield had the foresight to let us try it, and nobody knew what was going to happen. Even industry people were saying that They didn't think we'd last more than 6 months. Nobody had heard of a free play business model where you pay a door fee and all the machines are set on free play. I've been able to bring in game designers, and 30 years after they've made games, they're seeing families still love and appreciate the games that they made all those years ago. And that's so satisfying. Like, these are the guys that inspired me to get into game design, and now we're able to show that people are still enjoying their artwork and their craft after decades. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to work in the video game industry. There's the gaming side of it, there's the creative side of it, artwork and music, and just get to do everything that's fun every day. So it's, you never hear a complaint from me.
Finish
Everybody recognizes that sound. Doc Mack says their planned expansion is coming any day now, and they expect to unveil their 1,000th game next August. And that's our show for this Tuesday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and a special time, 10:30, for Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, wishing all a happy and healthy holiday season.